It was a crisp April morning in 2025 when I, Daniel Harper, jolted awake to a sound that could only be described as a chainsaw locked in a death match with a malfunctioning garbage disposal. I stumbled out of bed, rubbing sleep from my eyes, and peered through the blinds of my bedroom window. What I saw wasn't a nightmare conjured by my half-asleep brain, it was worse. A construction crew, decked out in neon vests and hard hats, stood knee-deep in Saw Creek, the one that had wound its way through my backyard since long before the Pine Hollow Homeowners Association, HOA, ever sank its claws into this neighborhood. They weren't just standing there, they were pouring wet cement into the water like it was some kind of industrial soup, the gray sludge swallowing rocks, reeds, and the last gasps of the fish that called it home. I threw in a ratty bathrobe, the one my ex-wife used to call a cry for help, and bolted outside, barefoot and furious. The air smelled of diesel and damp earth, and the rumble of machinery drowned out the usual chorus of birds. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted, while VYing my arms like a deranged traffic cop. One of the workers, a stocky guy with a sunburned neck, turned to me, unfazed. "Drainage optimization, sir." "HOA orders," he said, as if that explained everything. I stood there, mouth agape, watching as the cement oozed downstream, suffocating the creek where my son, Ethan, once spent hours hunting dragonflies, and where my old mutt, Rusty, had nearly drowned trying to catch a possum. This wasn't just a violation, it was a gut punch. The day before, I'd noticed something odd. Margaret Voss, the HOA president with a smile as fake as her spray tan, had been lingering near the creek with a slick-looking realtor in a cheap suit. She'd pointed at the water with a grimace, like it was a stain on her pristine cul-de-sac VY shown. I'd brushed it off. Margaret disapproved of anything that didn't come with a warranty or a wine pairing, but now it clicked. This wasn't a mistake. This was her war on nature, waged with concrete and entitlement, and my creek was the first casualty. I stormed back inside, grabbed my phone, and started making calls. The police were useless. Two officers showed up, scratched their heads, and muttered something about permits before DRI VYing off. The city's NVY environmental office went straight to voicemail. The HOA hotline, that was a laugh. It connected me to Margaret's chipper recording. "Hi, you've reached Margaret Voss of Pine Hollow HOA, where harmony reigns supreme." Harmony, my ass. I hung up and dug through my filing cabinet, pulling out the deed to my property. There it was in black and white. The creek was mine, a protected natural feature with a minor runoff easement. The HOA had no jurisdiction here. None. Yet they'd done it anyway. By noon, the damage was done. The creek bed was a gray scar. Fish flopped helplessly at the edges, and a pair of egrets that used to perch by the old oak took flight, probably never to return. I snapped photos, my hands shaking with rage, and uploaded them to a local Facebook group. "Anyone know what's happening to my creek?" I typed. The responses trickled in. Hock, sympathy, a few. "That's the HOA for you." Shrugs, but no answers. Then came a private message from an old high school buddy, Jake Torres, who ran a hauling company. "Dude, that's messed up. Need some trucks to send a message." I stared at the screen, a grin creeping across my face. Oh, I needed more than trucks. I needed a reckoning. The next morning, I confronted Margaret outside the HOA clubhouse. She stepped out of her gleaming Lexus, clutching a latte and a clipboard, her blonde bob as stiff as her resolve. I thrust my phone at her, the screen glowing with images of the cemented creek. "Explain this," I demanded. She barely glanced at it, sighing like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. "Daniel, we're enhancing property values. Buyers don't want wild, messy streams near their decks. It's being repurposed into a dry landscape, feature very chic." Chic? She just murdered an ecosystem and called it a design choice. I wanted to throttle her, but instead, I smollate a cold, calculated smile that made her blink twice. She didn't know who she was dealing with. "See, I'm not just some guy with a creek and a temper. I'm a CIVYL engineer with a master's in NVY environmental systems, a guy who spent years designing water management plans for state parks and drafting regulations for wetland preservation. I know the law, every permit requirement, every fine, every loophole. And I have friends, Jake with his fleet of dump trucks, a college buddy at the EPA, even a drone-obsessed neighbor who owed me a favor after I fixed his irrigation system. Margaret had picked the wrong fight. For 2 days, I gathered evidence like a man possessed. Drone footage showed HOA-branded workers dumping cement straight into the creek. My security cam, originally set up to watch for coyotes, caught the whole thing in grainy detail. A pull permit, sir, rather, confirmed there were none. I even tracked down a biologist from the university who documented the creek's ecosystem: frogs, fish, birds, all now buried under Margaret's chic VY shown. By Sunday night, I had a dossier thick enough to choke a lawyer. But evidence wasn't enough. I needed leverage. Monday morning, Jake rolled up with 3 dump trucks that looked like they could crush a house. He spat sunflower seeds into the dirt and grinned. "I'll tell you where I'm parked, Dan." I handed him a map of Pine Hollow's entry point's main gate, Sayre VYC Road, back exit each marked with precision. "Breakdowns," I said. "Coincidental, of course. Just enough to lock it down." He laughed, a deep, rumbling sound, and called in his crew, Tony, a wiry guy with a fake limp for dramatic effect, and Carla, a no-nonsense driver who could parallel park a semi in a snowstorm. By 6 a.m., the blockade was in place. Tony's truck broke down at the main gate, hood up, hazard lights flashing, while he sprawled underneath with a wrench and a coffee mug. Jake took the Sayre VYC Road, scattering bolts for authenticity. Carla positioned Big Bertha across the back exit, her crossword puzzle in hand as she waved off the first furious resident. It was legal public roads, mechanical issues, no trespassing, just a perfectly timed disaster for Pine Hollow's Monday commute. The chaos unfolded like a symphony. Residents honked, cursed, and called tow trucks that couldn't get through. A delivery guy abandoned a stack of pizzas at the gate, handing out free slices to gawking pedestrians. Kids live-streamed the mess on TikTok with hashtags like the Pine Hollow lockdown. Margaret appeared in yoga pants and a scowl, clipboard in hand, demanding Tony move. Transmission shot. "Lady," he lied, grinning. "Gonna be a while." She threatened legal action, but I'd already checked. She had no leg to stand on. By noon, the HOA was imploding. Margaret called an emergency Zoom meeting, and I got the link from a sympathetic neighbor, Lisa, who'd grown tired of Margaret's reign. On screen, Margaret looked like she'd aged a decade, hair unkempt, voice shrill. "This is sabotage," she screeched, blaming outside agitators. Then Lisa dropped a bomb. Screenshots of emails between Margaret and a developer plotting to neutralize the creek for a new housing phase. The timestamps predated the cement pour by weeks. Residents erupted shouting about missed appointments, ruined deliveries, and the creek's destruction. One guy, Phil, demanded Margaret's resignation. She ended the call mid-sentence, claiming a connection issue. That evening, a news van from Channel 7 parked outside the gate, filming residents tossing grocery lists over Tony's truck like prisoners in a siege. The anchor dubbed it Creek Gate, and the story went viral. Environmental groups reached out, offering support. Then came a call I'd been waiting for. An EPA agent named Victor Ruiz, voice calm but firm. "We're investigating an unpermitted waterway alteration. You the property owner?" I sent him everything: photos, footage, emails, the works. "This is loud," he said. "It's already moving fast." Tuesday dawned with Pine Hollow in full meltdown. Trash piled up, Amazon packages languished at gas stations, and a woman in a bathrobe screamed at Tony's truck like it had personally offended her. Inside the gates, Margaret's allies turned on her, whispering about legal fallout. The EPA arrived Wednesday, a quiet van, a man in a windbreaker named Ruiz, and a clipboard that spelled doom. He inspected the creek, prodding the cement with a tool, then took my evidence without a word. "This ends in court," he said. "Best case, they pay. Worst case, jail." That afternoon, the HOA ousted Margaret in a closed-door vote. Lisa, now acting president, met me on my porch. "We'll fix it," she promised. "Help us." I agreed, calling in nonprofits to assist. Thursday, cleanup crews arrive volunteers, kids with buckets, even fill with donuts. The cement cracked under sledgehammers, and water trickled free. Frogs croaked by nightfall. The truck stayed one more day, a silent warning. Margaret slunk off, last seen hawking her house under a new name in the next county. The creek healed, and Pine Hollow changeless HOA tyranny, more community. A year later, Jake and I built a monument from the salvaged cement, engraved with "Don't Test Me." Kids studied it on field trips, a lesson in ecosystems and defiance. I still sit by the creek, coffee in hand, listening to the water. It's not just a VY Tory, it's a reminder. Even a trickle can carve through stone, given time and a few good trucks. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.